Hi everyone. Welcome again with new Aeon topic, which is a dream of the Russian tropics, and it is about Imperial Russia. Imperial Russia had little access to the bountiful tropics that other empire enjoyed, so it's created its own in Caucasus. It is written by Alexander Polyanichev, is a project researcher at Södertörn University in Stockholm, Sweden. His research focuses on the colonialism and environments in the Russian Empire. So let's see what the first thesis is talking about. In the age of the empires, seeds and sapling of tropic plants were making a regular voyage throughout the world, traveling across the continents and the oceans via metropolitans and colonial botanical gardens. They did not only transform but also help to construe the very notion of the tropics. The trans and the intra-imperial circulation of the biota shaped a global web that connected colonial realm of the British, French, Dutch, and other maritime empires. The Tsarist Empire is near thought of a participant of this process, but it was one of the stopovers on the tropical plants round the world journey. It was in South Caucasus where imperial botanists, agriculturists, and upper class settlers invented Russia's own tropical domain. So this passage is basically saying that in the age of the empire, seeds and sapling of tropical plants were making a regular voyage throughout the world, traveling across the continent and the oceans via metropolitan and colonial botanical gardens did not only transform but also help construe the very notion of the tropic. It says that this line says that the tropical plants is not just limited to some particular area. It's traveled across the continents and oceans via metropolitan and colonial botanical gardens, which not only transform but help to constitute the very true notion of the tropics. Let's see what the next line says. The trans and the intra-imperial circulation of biota shaped a global web that connected the colonial realm of the British, French, Dutch, and other maritime empires. Is it that it's have a trans and intra-imperial circulation, which shapes the connection between the British, French, Dutch, and other maritime empires. The Tsarist Empire is never thought of participants in this process, but it was one of the stops over on the tropical plants round the world journey. They even not assume that the Tsarist Empire is also the part of this journey. They also like that tropical plants. So they are too shocked about it. So let's read the next line. It was the South Caucasus where imperial botanists, agriculturists, and upper class settlers invented Russia's own tropical domain. It is. It was started. Russia grew their own tropical domain in the place which named the South Caucasus, where the botanists, agriculturists, and upper class settlers invented their own tropical domains. So the title of this passage is A Tropical Plants, a journey of a tropical plants. And what we can take from here is that making regular voyages throughout the world. This line we can pick. And constitute the very notion of the tropics. And the trans and intra-imperial circulation of biota shapes a global web. South Caucasus, where the imperial botanists, and upper class etc. invented Russia's own tropical domain. That for that particular paragraphs. Moving toward the next one. These regions lie nowhere near the tropical zone, but in the long 19th century, this geographical fact mattered little when confronted with the power of imagination. As Catherine Cox has shown in her Tropical Whites, The Rise of the Tourist South in America 2013. The term tropics were used rather evocatively and indiscriminately, spreading into the places like Southern California and Florida. Only at the turn of the 20th century, the term subtropic formally entered the imperial lexicon to lend an air of science to the idea of tropicality. So, this passage is saying that this region lies nowhere near the tropical zone, but that region is not near to the tropical zone. But in the long 19th century, this geographical fact mattered little when confronted the power of imaginations. Means that place is not real to the tropical zone, but they grow that place so much so that people, because of their imagination, nobody can say that particular area is not near to the tropical zone. As the Catherine Cox has shown in her Tropical Whites, The Rise of the Tourist South in America's 2013, the term tropic were used rather evocating and indiscriminately spreading into the places like Southern California and Florida. So they said that there is a rise of South America, tourists from in South America, and the term tropic was used for the main purpose of the tourister is for the tropic to seeing that particular place. That's which is spread throughout the Southern California and Florida. Only at the turn of the 20th century, the term subtropics firmly entered the imperial lexicon to lend an air of science of idea of tropicality. In 20th century, they used the term subtropic to lend the air of science of idea of tropicality, means that a particular place is named as subtropics, which is looked like a area belongs to the tropical zone. So the name that particular area is subtropic. Let's sorry. What we can the title of this particular places is subtropic. The house area term named as subtropic. So that particular geographical area is considered as power of imaginations, and the term tropic was used rather evocating and indiscriminately, and subtropic forms enter the imperial lexicon to lend an air of science of the idea of tropicality, which we can take from here. Is this moving toward the next species? The tropic was thus a wandering notion which travels along with the plants that were in the hallmark. In the South Caucasus, it roamed from one place to another, from the arid steppes of Azerbaijan to the river valley of Georgia, before it finally became ensconced on the eastern Black Sea coast in places like Sochi today of the resort city in Russia, Sukhum or Sukhmi, the capital of Abkhazia, and most comfortably Batum. Today's Batumi, the second largest city in Georgia, close to the border with Turkey. So It is the geographical distribution of that tropic. So the title here is that geographical distribution of tropic. And first it started arid steppes in Azerbaijan to the river valley of Georgia, ensconced to eastern Black Sea coast. And it is the places given which we don't use. That's for that places. Let's moving toward the next one. Why did Imperial Russia need the tropics? From the early 19th century onwards, the pursuit of tropical commodity was the main driving force of the acclimatizations of exotic plants. As the century wore out, the tropic took on a new meaning as places of delight and self-indulgence. Ornamental exotic plants equaled, if not outmatched, useful one in importance. Hotels, sanatoria, and stations were cherished subjects skimmed to dolls for Far-90 dotted the littoral. Well-off settlers were coming in large number. Villas and vacation residences popped up throughout the coastlines. So this passage is about why Imperial Russia needs the tropic. Why Russia needs the tropic? So the answer here is that from the early 19th century onwards, the pursuit of tropical commodities was the main driving force of acclimatization of exotic plants. That in 19th century, a tropical community was the main force of exotic plants there. As the century wore out, the tropic took on a new meaning, a place of delightful and self-indulgence, where the people feel the sense of delight and self-indulgence. Ornamental exotic plants equate if not outmatch useful ones in importance. Hotels, sanatoria, climate stations were serried subjects exhumed to dolce far niente, dotted the littoral. Well-off settlers are coming in large number, villas, vacations, residents pop up throughout the coastline. So that plants is used in all over the Russia, all over the villages, villas, vacation residents, they use that exotic plants as an ornaments in hotels. So, the title of this species is Why Russia Need the Tropics. Why Imperial Russia Need the Tropics? First, we can take from here is that acclimatizations of exotic plants, place of delightful and self-indulgence, and used in various residential area. That's it, and let's moving toward the next species. Tropically entails settler colonialism. The public and the government alike treated the indigenous population as too indolent and primitive to be able to unleash the real potential of local climate. The inflow of pioneers and culture raisers from Russia proper and the Empire European province was the only means to productively harness and economically uplift the region. Lastly, tropically served imperialism as a symbol of grandeur. Many a member of Tsarist social took pride in very thought that their empire was immense enough to stretch from the polar ice caps as far as places where coconut palms, banana plants grew. In other words, if there were no tropics, they were worth to be made. So, what this passage is saying that the tropicality entails settler colonialism. The public and the government kind treated the indigenous population as too indolent and primitive to be able to unleash the real potential of a local climate. So what this line says that the public and government treated this indigenous population as too indolent and primitive, which unleashed the real potential of local climate. The inflow of pioneer and the culturizers from Russian proper and the empire European province was the only means to productively harness the economically uplifted reasons. And what the main reason behind all this that the uplift that European province uh, they use that exotic plants to harness and economically uplift that particular region. Many a member of Sarah's society took a pride in a very thought that their empire was immense enough to stretch from polar ice caps as far as places where coconut palm and banana plant grew. In other words, there were no tropics, they were worth to be made. So they said that in some places where where you found the coconut palms and banana plants grew, there is no need for the tropic because that area is worth for that soil, the soil of that particular area is worth for that plants, not for the tropic ones. So the title of this species is sorry. The tropicality entails settler colonialism, and from that what we can take that public and government treated the indigenous population as too indolent and primitive to be able to unleash the real potential of the local climate. That public and the government are think that they are the people of that particular area is too indolent and primitive to able to use the potential of that particular local climate. And its need to productively harness and economically uplift that reasons. And because of the that's all for that. Nothing we can take from the rest. Let's moving from towards the next list. In 1902, in an account of the years spent in Java, Modest Bakunin, the Russian imperial consul to the Dutch East Indies, reflected on his experience of living in a part of the world that few of his countrymen had a chance to see firsthand. Tasked with advancing trade opportunities, searching for a colonial territory for the Russian Empire in Southeast Asia that would host a coaling station for a Tsarist ships, Bakunin felt disillusioned. For him, just as for a vast number of other colonial sojourners, whose career path took them to the warm oceans. His stay in an exotic place was about boredom and a disappointed rather than about adventure and excitement. homesick he was ever more longing to the old world he had left behind. So, this passage is talking about a story. So, let's begin. In 1902, in an account of the year spent in Zaba, Modest Bakunin, the Russian imperial consul to the Dutch East Indies, reflected on his experience of living in a part of the world that few of his countrymen had a chance to see the first hand. So, it's a story about the Dutch East Indies, that the Russian emperor consoled that Dutch East Indies who barely have chance to see in to just be in the land, because they are most of the time they are away from the lands in ships mainly. The task with advancing trade opportunity and searching for colonial territory for Russian Empire and Southeast Asia that would host a coaling station for Tsarist ships, Bakunin felt disillusions because that peoples have the task to searching for the trade opportunities and searching for colonial territory for the Russian Empire in Southeast Asia. Because of that, they need to stay in the ships. And for him, just as for vast number of other colonial sojourners whose career path took them to the warm ocean, his stay in exotic place was about boredom and disappointed rather than about adventurous and excitement. So they're sharing the experience of the people who are in oceans, who lives in oceans, and when they get chance to be spend some time in lands, but because of that exotic atmosphere, they're not even feel it's like an adventurous. Rather than instead of adventurous, they feel it's like a boredom and a disappointed. Because the homesick he was ever more longing for the old world had left behind. So, what the title of this passage is? Situations or a story about Dutch East Indies. So what we can take from here is that because of trade advancing trade opportunity and searching for colonial territories for Russian Empire in Southeast Asia, that would be host a colonial station for Tarasif ships, Tsarist ships. Bucking felt disillusioned. Buckinghams. And what we can take from it is stay in the exotic plants, places that are about boredom for them rather than excitement and adventurous. Why? Because he was ever more longing for the old world he had left behind. Let's moving toward the next places. To escape the tedious routine, Buchanan took comfort in socializing with other Europeans who, for various reasons, came to stay in the colonial capitals, Batavia. This was a Buchanans describe it a tight circle of colleagues that is real European who, like me and my family, see their existence in Zava as something temporary and transit. Indeed, the yearning for Europe as well as the shared sense of Europeanness was about to brought them all together. All of us keep and carefully maintain the European flame that unite us in our faraway captivity and all the time tells us about the old Europe better and nicer than which nobody has invented anything. So this passage is experience of Buchanan in European culture. We can say, or with Europeans, the Buchanan experience with European. The title of this passage, and what we can take from here is that Escape or tease routine became to a comfort in socializing with other Europeans, so for the various reasons came to stay in the colonial capital, Batavia. The first we can take here is what he's saying. A tight circle of colleagues that is real European who, like me and my family, see their existence in Java as something temporary and transits. That as his experience with European people and seeing them, that particular people in Java is Bakunin felt like a temporary and transits. Another, all of us keep and carefully maintain European themes that unite us in our faraway captivity and all the time tells about old Europe, better and nicer than which nobody invented anything. Their memory with the old Europe is much better than whatever the situation created, they were the created world they are living in. Still, they are not satisfied with that. So let's moving toward the next species. Buchanan enthusiastically described the main advantage that the tropic could offer colonial commodities produced from heat-loving plants. Cinchona tree, coconut palm, bamboo, rattan, teak, tea, among others, deliberate enormous benefit to metropolitan society. If the tropic, the white man's symmetry, were of any use of European, it was the immense exploitative potential of their vegetation. Whereas his own colonial mission proved an exercise in futility. Buchanan envisioned the introduction of exotic crops, particularly tea, to Tsarist soil because Russia, he assured, had territorial possessions in south that in many respects resembled the Dutch East Indies. Transcorsia for us is just the same colony that Java is for Dutch metropole. The climatic and soil condition of the Russian tropic allow planting in arid domain and successfully introducing many of the tropical, subtropical cultivars. Buchanan's consular service in the tropic, if anything, made him an avid proponent of inter-imperial transfer of useful plant from Java to South Caucasus. So he's saying that what he's experiencing in Europe and what intake Russia had to take from that because of his years of spending in European countries. So, the title of this passage is Buchanan's, not advice, Buchanan's suggestion for Russian lands. So, what we can take from here is that what first suggestion he wanna give that Buchanan envisioned the introduction of exotic crops, particularly tea, to Tsarist soil because Russia had territorial possession in south. And Transcaucasia is just the same colony that Java is for the Dutch metropole. Which is say that Java and Dutch metropole is a temporary area where people is not much of enjoying that place, or that's the same thing as Transcaucasia in Russia. He's trying to say that. Another thing is say that the climate and soil condition of Russia tropics allow planting in our domains and successfully introducing many tropical and subtropical cultivators. That he want to say about the Russian soils. He said that an avid proponent of the inner imperial transfer of useful plant from Java to South Caucasus. He wanted to just make a deal to just transfer some inter-imperial plants from Java to South Caucasus, where that plant can grow effectively. So that's all for the today's video. Hope you guys like it. Let's continue our rest video tomorrow. As of now, bye. Have a great